I'm John, and Bill is usually the chair who does introductions, but unfortunately his voice is playing him up this week, so he's lingering at the back in the shadows. So today's speaker is standing in from Miss Jenny Stephen, who's one of the trustees of the Grantown Society, and this evening's talk is Grantown Society 50 Not Out. So 2024, we celebrate our 50th anniversary, founded in 1974. And Grantown Society really, we tell stories. We tell stories about the people and the place. And tonight, we are the story, the Grantown Society. So I'm going to hand over to Jenny. And Bill said it's going to be 50 years and 50 slides in 50 minutes. So no pressure. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So we'll move on to the slide. So our story formally starts in 1974. That was the year the Conservatives introduced the 3-day week. Petrol cost 50 pence a gallon, a bottle of whiskey £2.50, and a loaf of bread 4 shillings, 4.5 pence. The mortgage rate was over 10%, rising within a few years to 17%. 1974 was the year Scotland's football team, with Billy Bremner and Joe Jordan, were unbeaten in the World Cup, but yet knocked out in the first round, having lost only 1 goal. The first Grantown Society meeting was on May the 31st, 1974. The Grantown Society grew from strong local reaction to a redevelopment plan for Grantown's West End, drawn up in the 1960s by Murray Council. The scheme was later withdrawn, but only after numerous buildings had been demolished. From the community's opposition, the Grantown Society was formed to promote and develop the area's unique heritage. Changed a bit. From its earliest days, the Society has been linked to the Scottish Civic Trust, and inevitably there was considerable work done with planning and planners. Since its inception, members have played an important role overseeing planning issues. Sometimes Society intervention, in partnership with others, successfully blocked new developments, such as 3-storey buildings on the Mossy. Sometimes Society advice and knowledge managed to moderate plans, such as for the development of Morlick House or the design of new buildings on the Strath Hotel site. Sometimes it was ineffective, such as for the demolition of the back wing of the estate office block or the design of the new houses at Duleg. Grantown has a proud building tradition, and its Georgian and Victorian legacy is recognised as of special architectural or historic importance. The centre of the town was designated as a conservation area around the time the Society was formed. From the start, therefore, the Society has been concerned about Grantown's buildings. In 2018, after repeatedly requesting, unsuccessfully, that Highland Council should carry out a conservation area review, the committee decided, rather like the little red hen of the famous nursery story, that we should do it ourselves, and so we did. We raised the funds, we employed a consultant, and we carried out a week-long public consultation. The result was an independent report from the consultant, which was adopted in full by the Highland Council, with the addition of Gaelic subtitles. It's worth noting the very first Grantown plan. The work also produced a review of the sad state of the trees in the square, resulting in a commitment by the council to attend to them. That only happened several years later, though, with the requested long-term plan. Without the requested long-term plan. This followed pressure and funding by the Community Council. And then the follow-up Conservation Area Management Plan, again carried out on behalf of the Highland Council, and involved the Society's consultant and work with our 2 planning authorities, both with very different planning priorities. The principal objectives of the Society, according to its original constitution, were to collect and record information about the growth of the local community and the life and culture of the town and its surroundings, and, further, to promote and preserve this unique heritage. This resulted in over 300 evening meetings during the autumn and winter months. It led to a great many walks and excursions, displays, reenactments, and a whole series of festivals and major projects. Most of this was done quietly, without fuss or great publicity, to the extent that many know little of the Society's work. Inevitably, a considerable amount of research and a considerable number of meetings involved the foundation and development of the High Street and the Square, Grantown's central spine. Our very first talk in 1974 was on this very topic. It was from Dr. Jean Monroe and George Dixon, who we are now very privileged to have as our honorary president and vice president. This research continues, and another result is this year's 2024 Heritage Calendar, which is on sale tonight. Our ongoing work on Grantown shops was complemented by the donation from Harley Miller of the Grantown Street Parade, which for several years graced the walls of the community centre. It's hoped in the near future to be able to present this as a virtual reality walk down the High Street 100 years ago, thanks to the involvement with the St Andrews University. Similarly, we have gathered much information on our local hotels, sadly very depleted in number since the loss of the railway. Many of you who've been around for a while can count off those which disappeared: Palace, Seafield Lodge, Spey Valley, Dunvegan, Home Hill, Waterford, Mackay's. Nevertheless, we enjoy those which remain, and are especially grateful to the Grant Arms, now a member of the Society, who host our meetings and who were indeed the subject of our dramatic history of the building. We also had more than one tour of hotels and inns, including a virtual tour round of producers and purveyors of fine drink, taking us from David Frew's Bellyward Inn in 1755 to Gordon and MacPhail's Cairn Distillery. On several occasions, we've taken the opportunity to review development with a series of then and now pictures, both showing how much things have changed and yet how much they are still the same. It's a well-known saying that people make place, and through the years the Society has highlighted many people. Already mentioned was Dr. Jean Monroe. Our other famous honorary president was Dr. I.F. Grant. We have also featured many other Grants, from the founder, the good Sir James, to famous Grants such as Peter Grant of the Songs. Not to be exclusive, the Stuarts and the McGregors have also featured along with heroes, sportsmen and women, and from an earlier presentation, old worthies. As a minor aside, I have, this is Bill speaking, has a further indirect connection with Dr. I.F., and her brother, William Hugh Grant, was born in the Punjab at Marie, which is also the name of Bill's house. She also wrote a novel entitled A Candle in the Hills, a pioneering work of feminist fiction. Dr. Grant has taught us so much about Highland culture with publications such as Highland Folkways and Along a Highland Road. It's not surprising to see in the list of winter talks several titles referring to the lives of the people of Grantown and Strathspey. From church going to crafts and poverty to punishment. The story of Grantown's poorhouse, for example, is a remarkable one. Again, there are stories, indeed gruesome stories, of punishments for even minor crimes. For example, a lad of 17 who stole part of a plough and had his lug nailed with an iron nail to a post, and to stand there for a space of an hour without motion, and then allow him to break the grip, nailed without drawing of the nave. I hope you understand that, because I don't. A croft, remarked Alistair Grant of Ballinluig, during a talk on crofting and the crofter in 1985, is a piece of land surrounded by a sea of paperwork. Aspects of crofting and farming were explored in 4 different talks on farming, the first being in 1974, 3 on the Farmers Club, a couple on the life of a crofter, another on the life of a vet, and most recently, in 2019, on the croft at Limbrec. Hugely knowledgeable speakers included Bill Campbell, Dr. Ian Grant, Ian Thompson, George Rafferty, Madge McQueen, and Isabel Grant Valentua. Grantown started its life as a manufacturing town, and so it's no surprise to find the topic of industry appearing in the list of talks. Most recently, this was on Grantown's industrial past. This included not just spinning and weaving, with associated bleaching and dyeing, but also furniture and bobbing making, brewing and distilling, forestry, banking, tourism, and, of course, retail. The Grantown area's first known industry, however, was ironworking and quern making. The information about ironworking was revealed in a talk by the archaeological team who explored the Cragan site prior to the construction of the Cairn distillery. Further to the west is an even more important site, Ballintoon, subject of more than one presentation. As well, we've had talks on general medieval archaeology in Strathspey from Anne Wakeling, Janie Hooper and Siobhan McConaughey, on standing stones and cairns from Richard Stewart, and several very informative talks on the Picts and Pictish stones in Strathspey from Ian Shepherd, Anna Ritchie and John Halliday. One interesting item on archaeology was a talk from Ian Begg, architect, on carved stone bowls. His talk, though, was of the rebuilding of Muckrack Castle. The various castles of Strathspey were popular topics, especially, of course, Castle Grant. One of the many interesting features of Castle Grant is its roof timbers of local pine dating back to the 16th century. Strathspey timber was important for building and also for shipbuilding, and was floated down the Spain for this purpose. The timber for the first Grantown house in 1765 arrived from further upstream by this means. The Society ran several talks on forestry and furniture making, referring in one to Beale and Piper's furniture factory down Forest Road. The woods around Grantown had been the subject of several meetings, most importantly in the spring of 1987, following a talk from Basil Dunlop, and increasing local concern about timber operations in Anagac and Free Church Woods. We held a Woods Forum meeting. Present were Dr. Roddy Fairley, Countryside Commission, Brian Bedford, Seafield Estates, Rod Pym, Regional Manager at Scottish Woodlands, Elizabeth Main, Local Councillor, Dr. Nigel Buxton, Nature Conservancy Council, Ron Burrow, Highland Regional Council Planning, James Grant, President of Murray and Nairn Farmers Union, Basil Dunlop, Forest Conservation Services. Because of increasing concern over the potential of clear felling, a woodland fund was established with a public meeting in April. This, in its turn, led to the creation of the Anagac Woods Trust and community ownership. More often than not, 1 month's meeting each winter is dedicated to the natural world. Thus, the programme has covered a wide range of subjects: birds and butterflies, moles and mushrooms, otters, badgers, and freshwater mussels. We have explored wetlands and woodlands, marshes, and the River Spey. All this in the company of such experts as Hamish Marshall, Alistair McCook, Dick Valharry, Gus Jones, Peter Cosgrove, and Peter Moore, plus Eddie Orwell of the Wildlife Park. We've been impressed by the skills of local photographers such as Neil Mackay and Stuart Potter, and held a wildflower art competition. Victorian and Edwardian visitors such as Swinburne, Millay, and Gifford were most impressed, and the former wrote, "For fragrance and for the number of wildflowers, Strathspey was remarkable in this respect, only surpassed by the Apennines. We were reminded by one speaker, though, how the rhododendrons enhanced the sides of the roads to Castle Grant until visitors were banned by the Countess after a trainload of trippers trashed their beauty. Now they're considered a weed and formally destroyed by landowners. Grantown was placed on this one-time barren heath because of its position on the 18th century road network and the adjacent river crossing. The saga of the old Spey Bridge takes many hours to tell in full, and during these talks we heard, for example, of men in 1768 labouring in the icy floodwaters to repair the damage to the central arch from the massive floods of September that year. They worked right through into December, often at night time by torchlight, sustained by copious quantities of bread, beer and whisky, which cost, incidentally, £5, 14 shillings and 5p. Other bridges were not ignored in our talks, nor the road of Caulfield, or Telford, nor the railways, which arrived in 1863 and closed around 100 years later. The Grantown Society has fairly consistently stayed within its self-allocated boundary of Strathspey, although our Strathspey topics have taken us further afield on occasion. For example, while discussing Robert Burns' visit to Castle Grant, when he met and subsequently wrote about Bonnie Leslie, we ventured to the old church at Altyre, where we can find out more about Leslie Bailey, who later married Robert Cumming of Logie, who is now buried in Altyre churchyard. In a series of talks, we also explored, closer to home, the villages of Crondell, Dulnan, Boat of Garton, Carbridge, Nesley Bridge and Advie. How we wish we had recordings of all these talks, or what a wealth of information they contained. Most recently, we've been able to video some of our talks, which we have placed on our website, providing a recording of the topic and information for anyone who wishes to access it. Our earliest and only early recording was in 1984, and this indeed makes interesting viewing, and also we preview of next month's presentation on Grantown's music scene. It brings us to the end of this part of tonight's presentation, which has looked at some elements of the 300 talks we've had in our 50 years, before we move on now to review some of our other activities. Here is the ending of this recording, but don't go away.
Will he no come back again? Will he no come back again? Better Rudy Carnaby. Will he no come back again?
A major part of the Society's core work is to locate, record and make available information. This has created the backbone for so many of our talks. It has also helped with the dissemination of that information in a variety of ways. One such was the massive piece of work done for the 2007 Year of Highland Culture. This resulted in 14 pop-up banners and later a publication outlining the birth of the modern Highlands. Another piece of research resulted in an unpublished booklet, and a potential heritage walk was on Grantown's wells and water supply. This covered some 2,000 years and culminated in the 1930s in local and national controversy and press reports of the Grantown Town Council refusing to pay its debts. Money owed for a specialist survey following their improvements to the mossy mineral well, which in fact did the very opposite and apparently destroyed the mineral source of its properties. Currently, there are almost 100 of such pieces, all awaiting editing and publication and lots of time. For many years, there's been a small Grantown archive housed in the museum. jointly managed by the Society and the Museum Trust. There is a shared wish to increase the amount of digitised material available for research. The Society took steps to further this by setting up a series of 10-hour projects, whereby members started sorting and cataloguing some of the Society-held documents and photographs, and this produced some excellent results. This work continues and has been given direction through 2 days of workshops with a professional archivist funded by the Scottish Council on Archives. From the early 80s, the Society organised a series of excursions and field trips. The former took members to museums and castles and historic sites, and the latter led members around graveyards and the site of Pictish stones, to some of the many bridges around Grantown and exploring archaeological sites of importance. Such activities led to the creation of local guided heritage walks. Some were organised to follow individual talks, such as exploring Grantown's industrial past. Others were for specific events, such as Archaeology Fortnight and Green Health Week, and yet others were on particular themes, such as health or railways. There is a large number of walks on our website, some of which are virtual. And then came COVID. And that, of course, put a temporary end to our monthly meetings. Undaunted, we stepped into the middle of another massive learning curve and agreed to present our topics virtually. These largely took the form of virtual walks and were broadcast online to members. These included a virtual pub crawl. We also presented the Grant raid on Elgin, which the pandemic had forced us to forego earlier. Further exploration led to a 2-day funded course on virtual reality in the Glasgow University Advanced Research Centre, and the Society is looking forward to making considerable use of this form of presentation in the future. 6 years ago, Highland Council decided to put public Wi-Fi provision into 14 Highland towns. They missed out Grantown. Very shortly, Grantown will not only have its own Wi-Fi, but managed Wi-Fi, while the rest of the Highland provision seems doomed to be removed. Ours is a result of 6 years' hard work creating Strathspey Now, which is our own broadband providing up to a gigabyte standard. This is gradually being rolled out across the Strath, and for example, provided Wi-Fi at the Grantown Show and the Neffy Games. Our aim for a digital high street is getting closer. Our background research has provided the information, and our 20 heritage plaques give, in the short term, tangible access to at least some of the story. Our first official pub crawl was a charity walk, a Macmillan Mile, as it was reckoned to be a mile from the Craiglin to the Dunvegan, allowing for various detours. Being a Sunday afternoon, it was a dry run. For the second event, during which at several stops a drink was provided and a brief dramatised incident presented, this led to further walks in costume during the festivals. The Grant Arms was the venue for a fully dramatised history of the building, including murders, feuds and famous visitors. During that event, we found to our dismay that a couple of the characters featured in the story were actually present in the audience. Grantown Society's first exhibition was held from the 15th of July to the 10th of August in 1974 in the primary school lower classroom within weeks of its first meeting. Over 700 visitors to the exhibition signed the visitors' book. Further exhibitions were held in 1976 and 78 in the Episcopal Church Hall, and 2 years later in the Craiglin and the primary school. In a committee meeting in December 1979, during discussions about the next exhibition, George Dixon commented, "Our material is in much need of cataloguing and putting in order, and that could be done if we had proper storage space." 2 further exhibitions were held in schools during the school day, one primarily on bridges in the grammar school, and the other on railways in the primary. Another exhibition in the Seafield Lodge for the benefit of visiting Clan Grant members resulted in the publication of the Grantown Historical Walk. In 1982, Speyside House was about to become a heritage centre and a tourism exhibition was laid on. Discussions about the future of the building dragged on which Mr Dixon commented in a letter of January 1984, "The Heritage Centre serial drags on. Perhaps the Society will get its long-awaited accommodation yet." Expansive plans were made for a planned town centre. As it turned out, to everyone's disappointment, the building was sold to a developer. All these Society exhibitions, however, laid the foundation for a local heritage centre, and the future museum was in fact set up by a group specifically for that purpose, although it was Society members who were responsible for it. Some of our biggest audiences have been the music events. We packed almost 200 people into the primary school hall for a talented performance of Music of Strathspey in 1980, when we celebrated the work of Angus Cummings with Eric Peary, the Gaelic songs of the Reverend Peter Grant, plus music on the clarsach, pipes, fiddles, choir, recorder, and even a saw, expertly played by Drummond Cook. In 1992, we were introduced to the sound of the Carnicks, and our biggest concert was in the grammar school as part of the 250 celebrations. In turn, these concerts eventually led to the Fiddler of Strathspey Festival, which we hope will help with playing and appreciating the traditional music in Strathspey, which is of course the iconic home of Strathspey music and dance. The festival continues, and we hope it will gather further support and strength as time goes by. The Grantown Society is a partnership organisation. Without doubt, our biggest partnership event was the Grantown 250 anniversary celebrations, where, initiated and managed by the Society, the whole community joined us for 9 days of events. Over the years, as well as with national and regional organisations, we have worked with a great many local groups such as the schools, the Legion, the church, uniformed organisations, cycling groups, and so on. It's a long list. Through our work as partners, we developed a degree of proficiency in creating displays both outdoor and indoor. Notably recently, this included the NHS with the closure of the Ian Charles, the Legion with celebrations of setting up of the War Memorial, the Football Club celebrating their history, and the Community Council celebrating recent royal events. Also, Grantown Does Christmas and the Greentown Show. One small tangible token of our success was an entry for the Christmas Tree Festival, which we won, and subsequently followed up with non-competitive displays. Our work with window displays goes back to when the Co-op only used a third of their store, and 2 of the 3 windows were covered in bright red plastic. So we replaced that with a series of tableaus. Empty shop windows also became part of our brief, a display promoting Motormania one year being an example. Some of our work has led to larger scale projects. We celebrated in style the life and work of Peter Grant, and we celebrated the work of the last engine driver with a full-length video. We helped mark the Highland Year of Culture with a 14-banner display on the birth of the modern Highlands. For the planning authorities, we funded and managed both a conservation area review and a management plan. We marked the Grantown Heritage Trail with 20 wall-mounted plaques. 2 of our biggest projects, apart from the Grantown 250, were the moves to acquire an empty high street property, and our most difficult, an active travel project, now back on track with at last CNPA input. These projects involved both huge amounts of public money and equally large amounts of volunteer time, as they required community input which involved further displays and publicity, difficult as it was during COVID. In these, we worked with both planning authorities, Highlands and Islands Enterprise, the Scottish Civic Trust, the Community Council and other local groups. At the Society's first meeting in May 1974, a committee was formed and with various changes through time served the Society willingly and loyally. And we paid tribute just now to one such member, David Moyer, who died last week. Recently, aware of the ever-present danger in the modern world of litigation, we decided the time had come to take up charitable status. This was prompted by questions from the Crown Office about money laundering in respect of the anniversary celebrations by Castle Grant, funded by the then owner. The Crown Office were duly informed that we had undertaken due diligence in the matter, and if they wished to recoup money, then they'd have to contact some 2,000 or 3,000 people who enjoyed the events. Now we are a properly constituted SCIO, a Scottish Charitable Incorporated Organisation, with a current board of 9 very capable trustees. From that first meeting, we have had many press notices, and despite the diminished reach of the local press today, that luxury continues. Of course, we've had time to celebrate our progress in various ways. We've held the 25th, 30th and the 40th anniversary dinners. Another is planned for next year. Our work has also been recognised nationally. Nevertheless, we've always tended to go about our work quietly without a fuss. Despite having progressed to what might now be called a community heritage organisation, we have remained true to our original local history ideas as contained in our first constitution. Our first chairman, Frank Macaulay, set the tone of our work, and the current chair has tried to follow his example. We've also retained through the years the honorary posts of President and Vice President, Dr. I.F. Grant, Lady Pauline, Marion Stewart and Jean Patterson, who came rather as a double act with incredible memories living into their 103rd years. We are now honoured to have Dr. Jean Monroe as our honorary president with George Dixon as vice president. Our long 50-year trail to acquire property has now reached fruition. As you may know, we have secured funding to buy number 2 High Street, which has lain empty for 7 years. We are working on schemes which were detailed in our business plan, and again we hope for enormous support from members and the community to make this a valued and viable community asset. With these exciting future prospects, now 50 slides, and maybe 50 minutes later, not sure, we reach the eve of our 50th birthday. To start our celebrations, we have a birthday video, not for our 50th anniversary, but one we made for the town's 250th anniversary. We are all but custodians of this wonderful town and hope more and more people will step forward and play a part in maintaining and developing such a valuable and valued treasure. Thank you.
경야는 신선운동지의 문예보존적 노자.
Here she is.
Here is an illustrated summary of the news.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
When I wake up, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who wakes up next to you. When I go out, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who goes along with you. If I get drunk, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who gets drunk next to you. And if I haver, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who's havering to you. But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walked 1,000 miles to fall down at your door. When I'm working, yes, I know I'm gonna be the man who's working hard for you. And when the money comes in for the work I do, I'll pass almost every penny on to you. When I come home, oh, I know I'm gonna be the man who comes back home to you. And if I broke, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who's growing older than you. But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walks 1,000 miles to fall down at your door. When I'm lonely, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who's lonely without you. And when I'm dreaming, well, I know I'm gonna dream about the time when I'm with you. When I go out, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who goes along with you. And when I come home, yes, I know I'm gonna be the man who comes back home with you. I'm gonna be the man who's coming home with you. But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walks 1,000 miles to fall down at your door.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Grantown Society. Happy birthday to you.
Thanks, Jenny. How do you follow that? 50 years. I wonder if the people 50 years ago would have seen, how the society's developed from just a local history society to now a registered charity and become more professional. That was the Whistle Stop tour, 50 minutes. Seen the movie, heard the talk, and I believe Bill might be doing a book, hopefully, of the first 50 years, in a bit more depth than what we've seen tonight. There's a few people I'd like to thank, especially Bill. If it wasn't for Bill, I think he was in Shorts 50 years ago, when the society began. If it wasn't for Bill's driving force, a lot of what we've seen tonight wouldn't have happened. I think we owe him a big deal of gratitude. As Jenny said as well, we tend to do things quietly, and we get on with it, and we get results. And that, again, was just touching the surface of some of the things the society's done. There's a few names, past and present, I'd like to mention, who were, again, driving forces in society. So some of them already mentioned: Dr. I.F. Grant, George Dixon, Marion Stewart, Jean Robert Patterson, Bruce and Wilma Morgan, Graham Stewart, Jean Monroe, Frank Macaulay, Joyce Grant, Bill Campbell, Dave Moyer, May Marshall, and Val Fraser. If I've missed anybody out, I apologise. As we move forward, this has been a very hectic, exciting week. If you've seen the 2-minute silence, the Strathy, we made it to the front page. I don't know if that's the first time in 50 years we've made it to the front page. But our next project is the Grantown Hub. Again, it's been a long haul. It's involved a lot of time. We are all volunteers, a lot of paperwork. And I think Bill mentioned that it's in the minutes of the society. It was first mentioned in 1981. I think George Dixon said that we should look for a home for the Grantown Society. We're late developers, but like a good whisky, we mature with age. We've looked at various properties in Grantown over the last, pre-COVID, the last few years. Some are suitable, some are unsuitable, some we were pipped at the post. But finally we settled on number 2, the High Street, formerly the Hydro, and the sign is still there saying to lease, but upon further investigation the owners were willing to sell. So we approached the Scottish Land Fund, and we got the news in the middle of August that we were successful in being awarded the grant. We were then sworn to secrecy. It was very hard. I don't know if you can keep a secret in Grantown. But from the middle of August until this week, there was a press embargo. So they actually, it was originally for about 4 weeks, and then they extended it by another few weeks. So it was quite hard to keep it quiet. Anyway, number 2, the High Street. So the current moment situation is that there's an inverness solicitor doing the conveyancing. So we don't yet have the keys, but we do have access to it. When's it going to open is a good question. How long is a piece of string? We'd hopefully have it open by the spring. That's what we're aiming for. It's in fairly good condition. It's been empty for seven years. But it doesn't require a great deal of TLC to bring it up to modern standards. The Hydro and SECC left it in a fairly good condition. So this week it was in the paper. We could talk about it. We've now got a social media presence. There's now a Facebook page called the Grantown Hub. There's an Instagram page called the Grantown Hub. And as of this morning, we also have our own website. So the domain name is www.grantononspey.co.uk. Quite easy to remember. Okay. So it's only got 4 pages at the moment. We've got a homepage, a services page, a blog, and contact information. So the services, this is what we hope to do. We're already in talks with Euronet, who are one of the biggest providers of ATM machines in Europe. So an ATM machine to provide cash in the town. When we engaged with the community, one of their priorities was to have another ATM machine in the town. We lost 3 when the banks closed. So our intention is, again, by the spring, to have a machine on the high street for dispensing cash. The other thing we looked at is to have a central point to provide information about what's on in Grantown, because at the moment it's quite diverse, from posters in shop windows to postings on the Facebook and internet, and also the Strathspey and Baylor Canoes. So we're trying to form a central collective point or a hub where people can go to that information about what's happening in Grantown, but also provide information for visitors as well. Another thing that we're looking at is a pop-up shop. So a pop-up shop is a temporary store where people could maybe just for one day or a weekend or a week sell crafts or products without being committed to paying a rent or buying a property. So it's a flexibility. We could also do things when the farmers' market's on in Grantown as well. So that's the second thing. Third thing is something called hot desking. So because we've been working with a company from Fife called Rapier Systems, who've now provided Strathspey now our digital broadband connectivity. So that went live in January, and we have been promised to get fast internet provision in the premises at number 2, which means that we'll have fast connections to the internet. Now, I know some properties in Grantown are very well adequately served by the internet, but there are also some in Grantown and also in the rural areas round about with very poor internet connectivity. So we hope that our premises will be able to provide that. And again, it's useful for visitors who want to catch up with their work while they're on holiday, maybe staying in the caravan site. So again, this location on High Street is just ideal. It's so visible. When you're in the shop looking out, it's like being in a goldfish bowl. The windows are so big, and you see out into High Street, you see up the square, you see up to the co-op, and it's on a crossing point as well. So you see the young parents taking the kids to primary school. They're crossing up the lights there. When the traffic lights go to red, you see the cars stopped at the red sign, and everybody's heads turn left. I look at the window, and the window's empty just now. When we've got something in it, it's going to attract even more people in. And finally, the archive. Lots of members of the Grantown Society have got their own interests, and they've got huge collections in their houses. And what we needed was one central repository. And as I say, this was first mentioned back in 1981, and I'm sure Bill's room's overflowing with boxes and files, which are now in the process of being catalogued. But an archive is also what we're going to put into number 2, the High Street. And we were very conscious that we have a museum, and we're not going to be stepping on anybody's toes. Most of our records are paper records, not material collections. And a lot of our material as well we hope to digitise, which will then make it available to a wider audience, not just in Grantown, but over the world, using our internet connections. What else is there? You go into the blog, you go up to the top, Dave, you click on the blog. It's only got one posting at the moment. For news, yeah, just scroll down. And click on that hyperlink to the left. So, welcome, the journey begins. I just put up this morning, just a basic introduction of where we are. Our aims and objectives, and then that bit in the brown box is a little bit of the history of number 2. Originally it was early part of the 20th century, it was an Alfred Remington who married a local girl, Nellie McGilvery, and he was a grocer, and the number 2 was Remington's Grocers. As Bill pointed out before, it eventually became known as Remington's Corner, where I believe people used to gather, and also courting couples used to meet on the corner. So that's where the name Remington, you might have heard of it, Remington's Corner came from. An old picture there of the gas street light outside the shop before it had the big windows put in. But a nice view down the High Street. Just go up again, Dave. You click on contact. That's the address. We don't have a telephone number at the moment. Our email is easy, info@grantownspay.co.uk, and a map with a red kite mark where we're located. So that's, as I say, live as from today, and we'll be posting more material on it as time goes by. And you can watch our progress in the development of the premises until our opening date, which I'm sure you'll all be invited, and we'll have another party. And at some point we've got to decide if we're going to celebrate our 50th anniversary. I think is in June next year, but we've been so busy we haven't got around to planning that. We just finished the Fiddle Festival and now this. And yeah, we're still deciding what we'll be doing, but you're all welcome to come. So, and then there's also links to our Facebook and our Instagram page in the top right there, which should work as well. Doesn't matter, either one did. Might take a bit longer, and may not work. Anyway. Oh, there we go. No, we have to log in. Anyway, you can see it in the background. It's just a picture of the shop front. But we've already got about 50 followers in the last 2 days. So everybody's been very positive, a lot of positive feedback from people. That's all right. So, it's all right. It's all right. It works. So any questions at all about the talk tonight, or about the hub, or what would you like to see in it?
Hi, Dan McGee. I live at number 3 Speyside, and I was just curious what kind of funds were involved to buy that shop.
The total, we put in the application for the purchase of the building, and also some other funds for minor repairs, the conveyancing of the building, and for the salary for a part-time development officer. So I think we're awarded about £118,000, which comes from Scottish Land Fund, which also has connections with the National Lottery and the Scottish Government.
Okay, and then what about heating and utilities?
It's all electric. We have to finance that ourselves.
Where would that funding come from?
Well, there are grants available, but we're looking to be eventually self-sustainable. So sorry, I touched very briefly on the hot desking. Hot desking is where we have fast internet connectivity, and people will come in and pay a rental for an hour, or morning and afternoon, or a whole day to get internet access. We'll also be holding classes there, perhaps in the evening. So again, we're looking at the shop really as a rentable space, and we're going to be very flexible. So again, it could be a pop-up shop, it could be part of the day for hot desking. In evenings, it could be used for classes, for evening classes. So that's our income stream. We also get a small rental from Euronet for hosting the ATM. So we get a monthly fee from them.
Okay, another subject, I was just wondering if anything's being considered about the clock tower. I've had that at my flat for about 40 years, and the council used to come in there, and they were scary. They would go up into the ceiling there and reset the clock for daylight saving times. And I would ask them, why wouldn't they just, the mechanism was taken over to the museum, so this must be a fairly minimal control. Why didn't they just put it on a remote control?
It's an ongoing saga.
The clock never works now. Nobody takes care of it.
Each face tells a different time. It's an ongoing, I think Bill knows more than me, but it's an ongoing saga, the Speyside House. It was one of the buildings that the Grantown Society looked at originally to host the museum, but the Highland Council then sold it, became private flats. I believe there's something in your deeds about who's responsible for the clock tower, and then there was some dispute with Highland Council over the ownership of the clock tower. I don't know too much about it beyond that, but it's in the hands of the lawyers, everything, over who's responsible for maintenance of the clock. I don't know anymore. It's not a subject I know in any depth, but yeah, it's a grey area. Anything else, Bill?
Just, I hope you don't forget about the sports facilities. For example, the tennis club have got 8 courts. I don't think there's anywhere else in the Highlands with 8 courts. They can hold big tournaments there. They used to hold the Slazenger one in the past.
Yeah.
bowling greens next door, football club, the golf club. So we've lots of great facilities.
Well, this is something we've discussed, is using the window space in the shop to promote the shinty team, the local football team, or golf. So when the shinty season starts, for example, we can put a mannequin in the window with the local shinty strip. We have got old archive photographs of previous Grantown shinty teams, and if there's any silverware, we can put that in the window, and we can sell season tickets in advance. And also the football again, we could promote the local football team, and again sell strips and season tickets. So we're looking at this sort of thing: curling, any sport, curling, shinty, football, tennis. And there's various key dates during the year, like the Grantown show. Again, we can put on something to do with farming, and then again we've got lots of material in our archive of newspapers and photographs that we can put in the window display.
We've also got the billiards and the snooker club, which you have to.
We've got a huge range of material that we can use. It's going to be difficult to choose, but what we're looking at is being very flexible. So anything we put on, I think, would only be for a week to 2 weeks. That's what we're looking at. I know it could be a lot of work, but we're not looking at a long season exhibition like the museum puts on. We're looking at something that's going to be flexible. And then, I mean, between now and Christmas, we've got the Armistice weekend, we've got St Andrew's Day, we've got Grantown Does Christmas, we've got Hogmanay, we've got Burns' birthday. There's themes throughout the year of national as well as local importance that we can do things on, and which we've got ample material to display. Yeah. Bruce?
How do you propose to man the hub?
It's a thing called volunteers. They're a bit almost extinct. We're going to be looking at volunteers, I'm afraid, like everybody else. And we don't even know our opening hours yet. All this is one step at a time. So I know the museum had to limit their opening hours at weekends because of the difficulty they had. And it's something we're going to have to tackle. I don't see ourselves being open 9 to 5, but we do hope to be open all year round.
I know it'll cost money, but it might be an idea to have a permanent section in the Strata with what is on for that particular week. But you would need to buy that, of course.
We don't need to buy that.
Yeah.
But again, there's something already in the Strata about what's on. There's various things online.
Right.
The Kangaroo National Park events are happening in all the towns within the park. But the problem is that it's all diverse, and not everybody's on Facebook, not everybody's got a good internet connection. We're going to make it a hub. We're going to try and get as much information as possible in one place, so you come along and drop in to find out what's on in Grantown.
The premises above number 2.
Yeah, for sale. Last time
have you got one? Is that the same?
Philanthropic individual who'd like to buy it for us. No, we don't have funds for that.
You don't have that.
But in an ideal world, we may have purchased it and then we could have let it out for an income stream for the society. If anybody would like to. I don't know what the price is. I did look at it online. I think it was on the market before and taken off and it's back on again. But it was renovated just a few years ago, and it's beautiful inside. We shouldn't have any problems about the rain coming in. No, it is a good location. Once you're in it, looking out again, it's ideal. Could be maybe a bit bigger. It has got a cellar as well. It's not visible in the photographs. So there is a cellar, the same footprint as the ground floor. But with all the health and safety restrictions these days, you probably are just going to be limited to using it for storage. Bill did want to have a model railway in the basement, but with fire regulations, etc., I don't think it's going to be possible. Yeah. Just as a little 1-minute video, Drew Hendry, local MP for this area, was very supportive. We did have a a few times we came to the impasse of various bodies, and he was very helpful in getting us, negotiating us through that. He was also very supportive of Strathspey Now and internet provision, and he's very keen on ATMs and cash in society, to try and avoid being a cashless society. So he was very supportive at the various junctures in this journey. Anything else? So, our next talk is on the 17th of November, and it's Dave, sitting quietly in the corner there, our technical maestro. So Dave's going to be talking on Grantown's music scene. I thought it was in the last 50 years, but it seemed like it stretches a bit much further back. So with his background as well, it's going to be very interesting. So that's on the 17th of November, Grantown's music scene. Yeah.
In 50 minutes.
In 50 minutes? Okay. Have we got enough musicians to cover it for 50 minutes? We should be.
You get 50 hours.
50 hours, yeah. So you're all welcome to come along to that. I'd like to thank Grantowns again for their hospitality, and they recently joined the Grantown Society, so they're very welcome. What else? I'd just like to mention, where you look, yeah. So, where's Graham? Yeah. So this is a from a guidebook, priced 2 shillings. Welcome to Grantown Spey. It's from the 1960s, you say, Graham?
64, I think.
64. In colour as well, and some beautiful photographs and adverts for some of the old shops. So it's going out to the new members, is that right, Graham?
Yes.
So if you join tonight, you'll get a free copy of this guidebook. It's in mint condition. It doesn't mean you sell it on eBay once you go home. So if you join the society tonight, it's £10 for lifetime membership. Graham will be able to give you a copy of Welcome to Grantown Spey, a collector's item. Also, as mentioned in the talk, here's a copy of the calendar. So this is for next year, 2024, and it's black and white photographs from the square, from the Co-op or McDougall's hardware shop, grocery, right the way down to where the High Street Merchant is today. Some of the buildings are still recognisable, others you may struggle with. But again, this is for sale for £7.50, and Bill has kindly done some research on each building, and there's an insert to go with it to give you a bit more information about each building. Okay, so that's again for sale next door. What else? I think that concludes everything. So I'd just like to thank everybody then for coming along tonight. It's been a very interesting talk Jenny gave. Thanks to Bill's research. And hope to see you again in November. Thanks very much.